Well, from 40 years and one day ago, we're back now to today's news, and we're going to talk to David Rohde of Reuters, plus Time Magazine's chief foreign affairs correspondent, Michael Crowley, two men who have a lot of experience on foreign news and covering wars. So what do you make of this? What was it that caused President Obama, who said we're not going back to Iraq and took great pride in saying we're not going back, now is saying, well, it really wasn't his decision to leave Iraq, and he says, but we have to send these warplanes back into the skies. What do you make of this?
I think he would have been under tremendous domestic political pressure to act. You know, it's an unprecedented amount of territory that's been gained by this new group, which essentially is a new version of al-Qaeda, and I think he did it very reluctantly, and I think that he's not sure how this is going to play out, and we can talk about this more. It's not a clear strategy. This president or this presidency, and maybe it's isolation as the last gets talked about, isn't really, I think, selling his approach to Iraq and explaining his past decision-making and his current decision-making that clearly to Americans.
Well, you know, I mean, the people I'm talking to say probably he had no choice. No matter how we got from there to here, he probably really had no choice at this point, because you do have, and we don't know how many, but maybe several hundred, maybe thousands of Americans up there in Erbil that you cannot leave there, even if you put aside the other part of it, and that's obviously a humanitarian disaster. But what do you see happening now? I think we're there for a while.
Well, we are there for a while. So why now? I do think it was a convergence of factors. To some degree, going into Kurdistan the way ISIS threatened to do and take Erbil was a kind of a red line. We think the Kurds are sort of the best actors in the region, and another big success for ISIS, capturing another big city in a place like Kurdistan, was too much for us to bear. There was also this humanitarian crisis. You know, the president very interestingly framed his speech as a matter of preventing an act of genocide. I think to a degree, not to be glib about it, but it allowed him to sell intervention to a certain extent to the American public. A lot of Americans, I think, understandably busy with their own lives, are vague on the Kurds, might even be a little bit vague on who ISIS is, but this idea of people trapped on a mountain, dying, children dying of dehydration and starvation, I think gave people an opportunity to understand why we would be crossing that threshold of action. Where does it go from now? The president warned yesterday this could be months. There's a political process that we're going to try to get some health into the Iraqi political system, which is very dysfunctional, try to get the Iraqi security forces to take the lead. We're also starting to explore the idea of restarting this Sunni awakening, where the Sunni tribes in the north, who are not as radical as ISIS, maybe rise up and take the fight against them the way they did during the Iraq War, which is a crucial turning point, and finally support those Kurdish Peshmerga. Peshmerga means those who face death. They are tough fighters if they have enough supplies. We can hope that they
you know, that brings up an interesting point. I mean, you get, and we did throughout the Iraq War, that the Kurds were really good, that they were good fighters and all that, but a man who was a senior commander in that region said, yes, but they're pretty much like light infantry. They have no heavy weapons, and he said, frankly, they could not turn back these ISIS forces if they decided to mount a campaign to take Erbil. They're going to need a lot of help, it seems to me.
And the disaster here is that the Islamic State has American armor and weaponry, millions of dollars worth of it, that was given up when the Iraqi army collapsed.
Can they operate it? Do they have the expertise?
They appear to. I mean, what's so astonishing about the Islamic State is that they're able to maneuver, use this weaponry. They can move 1,000 guys very quickly, and that they defeated the Peshmerga so quickly, I think, surprised many people. But the bigger debate here is, you know, we talk about the Peshmerga, they're the good guys. Americans don't believe there are any good guys in the region anymore. There's even a debate here, we as a country, is there a threat? Is the Islamic State a threat to us, or can we ignore it? And, you know, we're journalists. Politicians sort of claim there's an easy answer here. We'll just bomb them to smithereens. I don't think that's true. And then Obama's tried to kind of work with local forces, but that hasn't gone well.
And he keeps saying, you know, we have to wait till the government in Baghdad becomes more inclusive and is able to put together a coalition there. Can we wait that long? I mean, these people pose a threat, it seems to me, not just to that region, but to the United States?
Well, I think you've seen the answer. The answer is no. I think we were hoping we could wait. I think we were hoping this process could play out. It was a slow motion process. For a while, it looked as though ISIS had kind of, a front had formed, ISIS had stopped, it had grabbed Mosul and territory in the west, and it was looking like they were going to sit put for a while and consolidate their territory. They declared this somewhat ridiculous Islamic caliphate. And the hope was they were on pause for a while in terms of their offensive. But what we saw last week was this sudden advance, this threat to the Kurdish population centers. And I think that for the president, plus this impending act of genocide on the mountain, forced him to say, we can't ignore this anymore. Bob, remember, again, Americans who are wondering what this is all about have to keep in mind thousands of foreign fighters within the ISIS ranks who could come back to Europe, even America, and stage terror attacks.
All right. Well, not good news, but we appreciate your insight. We'll be right back.